Years in the future, but not many. A wayward vagabond records a stuttering step in the sun-bleached dust. Act 2.
Kavits and condolences. I'd be inclined to dispense with the trite, even under less pressing circumstances. Needless to say, I'll forego the unscrutable ACII banner, which typically heralds the striking freefall of these documents. I'll also resist the urge to brandish any copyright marks, or the particular neurosis that concerns itself with the theft of the utterly mundane. I'll allow other deranged prospectors to stake claims on their worthless plots as the woods burn around them. My introduction will be sparse. There will be no majestic prose blustering into the sails of a galleon as we embark on this voyage together, nor will there be any ham-fisted prose whipping its limbs under a bedsheet like a retarded ghost, for that matter. I won't set the stage or dim the lights. The mood, you will see, will be set soon enough. Since you are reading this, chances are you have installed this game on your computer already. If this is true, like many others, you have just participated in bringing about the end of the world. But don't beat yourself up about it. There was never anything you could have done to prevent it. The end is happening right now, as I type, and as you read. I have come to understand that we were always doomed through our collective ignorance, and now further doomed by those few who know and struggle to flee. If you're lucky, you'll be among the smaller subset of the latter who are successful. What I mean is, while that game you installed is just one more grinding slab of rock sealing our planet's crypt, it is also your only hope to live. I'm presently faced with the same conundrum as you, and though I speak with more experience, my own outcome is far from assured. I will play the game, as much of it there is to play, and record my findings here. If you want to live, you will do as I instruct. My condolences. TT.
The kernel divides. The two halves go their separate ways, leaving behind the sprite portion.
Boy!
No.
What is left of the sprite undergoes a mysterious transformation. For a moment, you thought you heard someone say, boy, as if whispered in the periphery of your awareness. It was probably just your imagination, though.
You there, boy! Boy, quit all this scurrying around!
For the last time, this boy's name is John.
Fine, John. Return to your quarters.
You go back up to your bedroom, tiptoeing around this weird petroleum-based sludge.
Now, John, respond to your friend unit.
John, are you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here. And, not dead, I think.
I know. I've been watching you scramble through the house like a lunatic. You should have answered me sooner.
Oh man, sorry. I was looking around for my dad and I can't find him anywhere. Have you seen him?
No, I'm sure he'll turn up. We have more important things to address right now.
Yeah, like, where am I?
I don't know that either, but I've determined your neighborhood was destroyed by the meteor. Wherever you were transported, it saved you from the impact. I've been reading reports in the news. Over the last few days, there have been many smaller meteor collisions with people's homes around the world. They seem to be getting bigger. Yours was the biggest they've identified so far.
Wow, okay. So I guess if this is all the game's doing, then the point is for us to save the world?
Perhaps.
Then we'd better get moving and figure this game out.
Yes, but wait. We should retrieve your PDA. Yet again. It will help to keep tabs on each other while you investigate. I think I can get you closer to it if I can replenish our grist supply somewhat. There may be a way to recycle something that we already used.
Okay.
I'll meet you out on the balcony.
Wait, Rose, one thing.
What?
You never wished me a happy birthday. Uh, um, hello?
I was working on something to send you, but I was running late with it. I didn't want you to think I believed meager well wishes alone would suffice for the occasion. That said, happy birthday, John.
Oh, that is silly. Anyway, thanks. First, take the fabric item on the floor there.
Oh, fag.
The towel? Why? Oh well, you're the boss. You capsulog the towel. What now?
Do as the purple text says. To the balcony.
John makes his way to the balcony per your awkwardly worded request.
Wait. Take that. The blue wobbly thing.
You whimsically decide to capsulog the totem, which was used to create the apple tree earlier.
John, recycle the grist as was dictated by your cohort.
John cannot do anything with the grist as of this moment. That is up to the Spurb player.
I see.
Ding. Yes, that will suffice. Rose deletes the perfectly generic objects. 6 units of build grist are restored to your grist cache. Rose expends the grist to drag a new plank from the balcony in the direction of the PDA.
John, run across the precarious platform swiftly.
John isn't sure about that. It's a long way down.
What the narrator said. Boy, I said make haste on the narrow catwalk.
John is very nervous about the idea, and the strident tone of your commands is starting to make him a little upset.
Fine. Proceed as your level of comfort dictates.
You cautiously walk within range of the PDA. Rose retrieves it.
Now take it.
You grab the PDA, launching one of the Harlequin figures into the night. You can kiss that one goodbye. Well-pressured attire. Submitting inquiry of concern over cataclysmic event. Pipefan 413, reply. Gray Slack 66. Pipefan 413, status of health/wardrobe. Fedora Freak. Neighboring house struck by flaming projectile. In light of fire hazard, evacuating house of all expensive garments. Office Urchin 1280. Good luck, Fedora Freak. Salvage as many hats as is practical. Well-pressed attire. Fedora Freak, you are in our thoughts, along with Pipefan 413 and his enviable collection of pipes. Fedora Freak. TY, all report. Most hats removed from danger. Ties next. Just one arrow command will suffice, thanks. It looks like you're not the only one trying to locate your father after the disaster.
These men are boring and uninteresting.
Beep.
John, are you okay? You seem a bit tentative.
I'm fine, I guess. Since I got here, I feel compelled to do these weird things I don't really want to do, by some kind of voice that I can't really even hear, that sounds almost like Viger. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
I didn't know that you played League of Legends. Perhaps the early symptoms of an anxiety disorder, like post-traumatic stress?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Well, if you can pull yourself together, there are a few more things we should try, like prototyping the kernel spread again, if possible. We should hurry. My laptop battery won't last forever.
Okay, I'll go back inside. No! Don't do that! Hop off this ledge onto that car!
What? No! That sounds incredibly dangerous. Now you're just being a pest. Which turnip truck did you just tumble out of anyway? Who are you? Years in the future, but not many. An unsealed tunnel welcomes hot desert air into its stagnant depths.
Boy! You there, boy!
An examination of the basics. Upon connecting with the client user, you, the server user, will be met with a control panel allowing you to manipulate your co-player's environment. You will find that you are allowed to deploy 4 items at no expense. 3 of these are rather large machine, and 1 is a punch card. It's quite possible that you have already deployed some of these items before reading this. If that is the case, and you have activated the machine called the Cruxtruder such that it displays a countdown, you must proceed to section A100 of this walkthrough immediately. The life of the client user depends on it, and if your co-player has activated this device in your environment too, then yours does as well. But if not, please refrain from doing anything with a Cruxtruder, aside from merely deploying it. This will buy us some time to think things through properly, and go over the basics of the game before you find your soft, easily punctured head in the jaws of the lion. As mentioned, there are 4 items to consider, each playing a role in a process which appears to have a singular purpose: to manufacture the fucking ice cream truck playing. Manufacture objects out of thin air. The designers of the game, judging by the language used... You fucking serious?
What?
You don't hear that?
No.
And everyone think I'm going crazy. Okay, fine, whatever.
I'm trying not to laugh into the. I'm trying. God damn it, Cassie.
Where the fuck was I?
Sort of.
No, not over. I'll just start at the beginning of this
I think,
paragraph.
You
but if
said...
not, please refrain from doing anything with the quick shooter.
Yeah, you said
Easily
that.
punctured ends of the line. As mentioned, there are 4 items to consider, each playing a role in a process which appears to have a singular purpose: to manufacture objects out of thin air. The designers of this game, judging by the language used, regard this process as a sort of alchemy. This may allude to complexities in the production process yet to present themselves, but for now the variety of objects you are able to create remains quite limited. The items in question are the Cruxtruder, again, tread lightly with this one, the Totem Lathe, the Alchemiter, and the pre-punched card. I will describe how these devices work in conjunction with each other, and I will use the analogy of having a key made at a hardware store to help you understand. First, deploy all these items in convenient proximity to each other. Be sure not to block doors or pathways with them. You can always revise the dimensions of the rooms to make space for them, but I'd advise against this, or even experimenting with the function. Doing so comes at the expense of build grist, a commodity which appears to be at a premium at the onset, and one you'd be best to advise to save for later. The Cruxtruder. Removing the lid signals the moment your life becomes a great whirling batshit pandemonium, somewhat resembling the chaos of an especially ethnic wedding. Somewhere, a soused uncle deliberately shatters china on the floor. Muddy livestock is decorated, and then lost track of. The question, whose mule is this, at times can be heard over the din. This is now your reality. But aside from that, it marks the beginning of a process I am about to describe. The countdown begins, yes. Also, an entity called the kernel sprite is released. But neither of these things are all that relevant to this process, to my knowledge. More on these things later. What is relevant is the unlidded Cruxtruder's ability to dispense Cruxite dowels. It will dispense at least one, though I suspect it is capable of producing more, given parameters I'm not yet familiar with. In my key-making analogy, these dowels represent the uncarved pieces of metal, which the hardware store employee retrieves from a drawer or a rack, and sets about carving into a key. The 2 following items are needed to do the carving. The pre-punched card. It is a simple Silodux card containing an item. There is evidence to suggest that the specific item it contains is variable from session to session. The card I deployed contained a blue apple. Yours may be different. It shouldn't matter, hopefully. Additionally, the card, as you may guess, is punched. like one used within antique computing systems. The pattern of holes comprises data, which I believe corresponds to the instructions for creating the item the card contains. And that it is pre-punched suggests there is a way to punch an unpunched card, possibly imprinting it with the data for the item it contains, though no mechanism for this has presented itself yet. But the data on the card cannot be used to create the item directly, and there is a middleman. The middleman is the totem lathe. The totem lathe. This is essentially the key carving machine. It will carve into your crooksite dowel a pattern of grooves and contours, the sort which makes a key unique. The instructions for this pattern are supplied by the punch card, which is inserted into the lathe pre-activation to configure its chisels. Once the dowel is carved, you have a totem serving as your key, which can then be used to unlock the card item through the alchemiter. But at this point, I will diverge from my key-making analogy and switch to a barcode analogy, which is not a terribly strenuous leap to make, since the concepts of a key and a barcode are essentially the same, one being a unique pattern of grooves, the other of varying black lines. The alchemiter. If you place a crocite dowel, carved or uncarved, on the alchemiter's small pedestal, its robotic arm will scan the contours with a laser, hence the barcode analogy. This is the machine's way of reading the data originally imprinted on the card and transforming that data into a physical object. Though typically, this is not done without expense, I believe. An uncarved dowel results in the creation of a perfectly generic object, which is a seemingly useless green cube. It costs 2 units of build grist to make, and I do not advise you to waste resources on it. There appears to be many other varieties of grist, ostensibly used in combinations to create different sorts of items, which possibly offers some insight into the game's use of the term alchemy. But, quite conveniently, there is an exception to this. Creating the item on the pre-punched card costs nothing. This is good, because creating this item turns out to be essential. Now that you know this, you can in your own time begin the process. Once you initiate it, naturally there is no going back, so best be prepared. But you probably shouldn't drag your feet too long. As I mentioned earlier, this is your only means of escape. When you're ready, be prepared to follow the steps in the next section swiftly. A100. So your crux shooter is ticking. Do this to live.